Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN Weekly for Saturday, April 15th, 2023. Well, it was a great week of topics and, of course, great guests. We kicked off the week with a look at people analytics and exploring how to increase productivity during the workforce life cycle. Let's take a look.
For me, it's essentially important. It's foundational in terms of understanding the business, understanding what happened, understanding the causes for why things happened, being able to predict what's going to happen next. And then what we kind of think of as the highest level or prescriptive analytics, which is being able to change what's going to happen next, really all layers onto the foundation of having good and solid data in the first place. And so there's kind of this progression or building model, if you think of it that way, of creating a foundation of solid and trustworthy data, because you have to be able to first understand what's going on in your business before you can start to make decisions. I think go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. I interrupted you. My apologies.
That's okay. I was going to say, I think in today's environment, we have to get the most out of people more now than ever before. The retirements, the changes of jobs, people taking on fractional roles, all kinds of job changes and whatnot. And so to maximize the use of every resource that we have, we need to understand what is happening within our business and for our people now more than ever.
Cradle to grave here, right? In terms of the workforce, it starts with really introducing the company as a potential place to work, hiring that individual, attracting them, hiring them, onboarding them, retaining them, and then really engaging them to achieve optimal performance. And that engagement really takes on a variety of efforts behind the scenes, whether it's learning and development, whether it's coaching, moving the individual around to, in terms of promotions, demotions, laterals, to ensure they're in the right role so that they can actually perform for the organization. And organizations measure performance. That's kind of the soft side, if you will, of how things get done. And then there's the productivity, which is what gets done. So that all leads into, other areas such as, how does the organization or how does that individual succeed in the organization? Do they move up in the ranks, or do they decide to ultimately separate at some point? So it is quite a life cycle that employees move through the organization. And as a result of that, the organization has many levers that they can pull to achieve that optimal performance and ideal level of productivity. So that ties into benefits, 401ks, health benefits, and the like, to ensure that the employee has the best experience. Employee experience today for organizations is a major focus point, particularly with younger generations coming into the workforce, working from home, working remotely. They're looking at ways that they can feel successful even when they're out on an island, so to speak. And it's the employer's job to make that happen and bring all those pieces together.
The analogy that comes to my mind is sort of the baseball Moneyball. Back in the day, you had people that would just pass the eye test. The scouts would go out, they would find someone that had the right size, they had the right tools, they looked good, and so they signed them, and they hoped that they grew up in the organization and starred for the pro team. Then all of a sudden you had Moneyball, and so you had a couple teams that focused on strictly analytics, and so they just cared about the amount of times you got on base, and hiring and bringing in players that were lower cost, that had right analytics that fit the view of the team, the strategy and the goals of that team's organization. I really think the best is the merging of both of those. I don't think that we can ignore the eye test. I don't think that we can ignore our gut and what we understand and what managers say and feel in that feedback. But at the same time, when we can support what we feel intrinsically with hard data, with performance measures, with higher revenue, and at the end of the day, our goal is to draw a straight line for what's happening to people and the changes and the decisions we're making to actual business results. And so are we able to track and know that, for example, if I train somebody or I promote them or I move them from one part of the organization to the other, how do I know that that was the right move? And so what are the measures and pieces of data that we need to track and implement, whether it's survey for qualitative data or actual performance scores or sales performance or customer success ratings? Those are all pieces that help us to combine the qualitative and the quantitative.
Thanks, David. And go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and what David said is spot on, but it doesn't come naturally in the workplace. Employers have to really go out and put a team together to extract the data from the various systems that they're using to manage their workforce, and there are many systems in place. It's rare that a company has just one HR system of, yes, one HR system of record, but one system that manages that entire employee life cycle that I spoke of. So there's a lot of work that goes into it to create data standards, to create efficiencies, and really make this a sustainable process to produce a single point of truth from which that analysis and insights and decision making can take advantage of. Historically, larger companies and really companies of all sizes have been using data, but in various parts of the business. Clearly in marketing, clearly in manufacturing. HR has been somewhat of a late adopter, primarily because of their relationship with the IT department. IT is very busy focusing on the parts of the business that really, generate revenues, right? Whereas HR has been traditionally focused as a cost center, they haven't gotten the focus there. Now, that said, a lot of organizations say, "Hey, our people are our greatest asset." Well, let's put our money where our mouth is, and we're starting to see that. And HR has been, starting to leverage data, and they're building some of their own, HR analyst, people analytics teams. But you're right, there's a level of maturity that they go through. It starts with just, collecting data, doing standard reporting, ad hoc reporting, looking at trends, and then, their vision, because of where data analytics is going today, is in being able to forecast, being able to correlate, to actually predict and, identify cause. So, if we have this mantra at Zeroed In, what gets measured gets funded. So you have to be able to measure, and you have to understand what is the impact, what are the levers that can be pulled in order to cause change, right? So if you could do the root cause analysis, you can then build a business case for change. A lot of decisions are made on gut instinct, but that's changing very, very quickly in the workforce.
Next up, we discussed caregiving and mental health. Let's take a look.
Well, I think caregiving has always been a super hard job. And certainly the pandemic, like everything else, just made everything that much harder. I think I've been really happy to see this topic get some exposure, because unless you've been a caregiver, you really don't have any understanding of what a caregiver's life is like. And even, when I work with caregivers, we talk about, some people don't have any support. Some people have a lot of support, people who love them and people who care about them and try to understand, but really no one understands like another caregiver does, because you go to bed every night and wake up every morning with the weight of the world on your shoulders. And that doesn't mean we don't want to do that. I always say it's the hardest job you'll ever do, but it's also the most meaningful and significant one. When you want to do everything you can for your loved one, and you do, but it's exhausting, it's overwhelming. And self-care goes out the window usually, and it's really, really needed to avoid burnout. So caregivers are more likely to get sick themselves. They're more accident prone. You know, and most caregivers would say they'd rather make decisions for themselves than for someone else. You know, and I don't mean this with any disrespect whatsoever for those who are being taken care of, but some would say caregiving is almost harder than being the patient. And so the mental exhaustion, the lack of sleep, all of those things. And then you never know, each family has its own dynamics. Some people, their family is a team, and I'm convinced it takes a village. Some, I hear lots of stories about adult children or siblings who don't help, who won't help. So on top of not having the support, there's a lot of other emotional dynamics going on that are very difficult to deal with. But one of the hardest things mentally and emotionally to deal with is grief. And they deal oftentimes a lot with what we call living grief, especially when you're dealing with something like dementia or Alzheimer's, where you're watching your person slowly disappear. And so you're constantly grieving what your relationship used to be. And then, of course, there's anticipatory grief where you know the direction is it only goes one direction, and you know that this person's life is going to end at some point. So it is very taxing on a person to have all of those different things, and you're really thrown into a world that you don't know anything about. You know, even if you are in the medical field, they all say the same thing. It's totally different when it's yourself. But I was just talking to a woman today who was like, I had to learn how to give shots. I don't know how to give shots. You're just not equipped and prepared. So on top of all of the emotional drain, you're having to learn a whole bunch of new skills. There is so much that is out of your control. Disease progression, can't do anything about that. All of the things that happen, you can try to have a schedule. Routine is really important, especially for dementia patients. But you can wake up and suddenly, I know this happened with my husband. Oh, he woke up with lesions. So scratch everything, cancel everything. You go to the cancer center and spend the day there. Oh, who's going to pick up the kids? Who's going to, you have to learn to be flexible. You do have to be prepared, but you have to recognize that your time and the plans that you have can just get scratched any minute. And you kind of can get a routine and a normal, and then the person's status changes again and it starts all over. And things can radically change in a moment, if someone has a stroke or falls or whatever. So definitely flexibility is huge. We're looking for resilience. I mean, we are for everything in life, especially in the world we live in now, but definitely for caregivers, you have to be resilient and be thinking about the long haul, which is why self-care is so important, because it's a whole lot easier to prevent burnout than to try to climb out of that hole once you're in there. So,
well, we're halfway through a look at our best segments. When we come back, a look at the other half. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN Weekly. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeffrey Snyder, and this is your retirement update. Cybersecurity, data privacy remain top of mind for regulators, legislators, and of course, participants of retirement plans, as one expert told me.
Most of the providers in the retirement space naturally come in contact with PII. And even if it's not PII, it could be information which is used to extract PII at a later time. So the providers, which include record keepers, third-party administrators, or advisors, can unknowingly be used by criminals to extract money from retirement plan participants, whether it be through a hack of a database or through impersonation. The guideline contains 12 best practices supported by dozens of specific steps. So there's a long list, but they will include things like having a formal, documented cybersecurity program, conducting annual risk assessments.
Continued vigilance is going to be priority number one for service providers and individuals. With your BRN Retirement Update, I'm Jeffrey Snyder with the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Invesco's latest Show Me the Income study reflects on the evolving retirement industry today as it faces the pressing need to help participants turn their defined contribution plan savings into long-term retirement income. Key findings from the research uncover that nearly 7 in 10 participants fear running out of money in retirement, and only 22% were very confident they could create a retirement income strategy on their own. What can employers do to help? To learn more about the study and request the white paper, visit Invesco.com/retirement income or contact your Invesco DC professional. Cited research is based on Invesco's work with Greenwald Research. Invesco is not affiliated with Greenwald Research. Invesco Advisors, Inc. is an investment advisor that provides investment advisory and does not sell securities. Invesco Distributors, Inc. is the U.S. distributor for Invesco's retail products and private placements. Both are indirect, wholly owned subsidiaries of Invesco Limited.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives and we just had a good conversation and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. Next up, we pondered whether private DB pension plans are making a comeback. Let's take a look.
There are quite a few plan sponsors these days who are in the mode of thinking about reopening their defined benefit plans. We haven't seen a whole lot yet who have made the commitment. saying either I had a plan once and terminated it and I'm going to restart it, or who have frozen their plans and said, I'm going to reopen it. But we do see a whole lot more thinking about it right now, certainly than there have been at any time. I was going to say in the recent past, but probably in the last 30 years, there's been more of a dwindling over that period of time. And now we're starting to see more and more organizations really, truly having an interest in it. I think a lot of that goes back to what their employees need, what their employees are asking for, and the whole concept of workforce management. So we're seeing an awful lot of people now who are really struggling to manage their workforces, not just from the standpoint of attracting and retaining employees, but also from the standpoint of how do I facilitate upward mobility? If I have the same people sticking around forever because they can't afford to retire, well, then how do I take younger people and move them up into those positions? So there's that whole combination of things, that whole dynamic that I think is being, to a large extent, a trigger for that momentum. Well, I mean, there's certainly, and this has actually been an area where there's been an uptick for the last 25 years or so. In the small businesses and professional service firms, there's been a lot of it. But what we're starting to see the last couple of years are some of the sectors where there were traditionally a fair number of plans. Companies are at least thinking about bringing them back or starting new ones. So we're seeing it, for instance, more and more in the hospital space, where organizations are saying, is this something I need to do? Because again, that's an industry where attracting and retaining employees with those particular skill sets is really of critical importance for them. As designs are getting more modern and we're starting to build retirement plan designs, defined benefit designs for these workforces of the future rather than the workforces of the past, and we're able to manageable from a cost standpoint, so they're affordable, they're sustainable for the employers, and they can keep them going. A lot of companies in those industries are starting to say things like, I want to be an employer of choice. I want to offer something that my competitor down the street or across town is not offering. And I want to get their best employees away while at the same time they can't get mine. So like I say, there's a lot of momentum in that direction. There are a lot of organizations talking about it. And the other thing that we're seeing is the organizations who to this point in time have not frozen or have not terminated are really not showing any inclination to do so. So the plans that are still ongoing seem like they're going to remain ongoing at this point. Frankly, I don't think it's so much the market as it is in a lot of cases the new designs. One of the things that happened fairly recently, and there's been a lot of focus on the defined contribution side in this regard, specifically in the 401k space, but in Secure 2.0 that was passed and signed into law in December, there was one very small provision. It was just a single sentence. And what it did is it opened the doorway for corporations, for businesses that really have the goal of attracting and retaining, to put in what we call market return cash balance plans. So it's a type of plan. It is a defined benefit plan technically, but it's a plan where assets and liabilities can move in lockstep. So what happens is an employee's account balance grows with an actual basket of investments. It might be a basket that's related to the assets in the plan that the employer has chosen. The other way is it might be related to some other basket, and then the employer will invest in a similar basket or the same one in order to hedge those liabilities. So rather than where in an LDI concept, you see companies investing in an asset mix to match the liabilities. Here, to a large extent, we have the liabilities, on the other hand, tracking the assets. In either one of those cases, when you do that, what you see is you see a stability in costs. So the plan costs stay very, very close to the budget. And when they do so, it becomes very much like the defined contribution plans that a lot of these CFOs, for instance, are used to.
And finally, providing caregiving for children with food allergies. Let's take a look.
I am president and CEO of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America. And within AFA, which is our acronym, we have a division called Kids with Food Allergies, KFA. And we are seeing that 1 in 13 kids have some sort of food allergy. If you look at all Americans, adult Americans, there are about 100 million Americans who are touched by some sort of allergy, whether it's not specifically food allergy, but seasonal allergies, that kind of thing. But certainly with food allergies, 1 in 13 kids have had food allergy, and that does seem to be growing, in particular in Black populations. I think it's really important for people to understand the difference in food allergies and a food intolerance. So something like a food intolerance, and I can tell you that the burdens of disease in navigating foods are just as heavy depending upon which one you have. But an intolerance is something like lactose intolerance, gluten intolerance. A food allergy, and there are 9 food allergens by law by the FDA, and you have to label for those. You could be allergic to those 9 food allergens, and that is a systemic immune system reaction, which can actually cause anaphylaxis and death if you don't have epinephrine nearby. So there's a difference between a food intolerance and a food allergy, which is related to the 9 allergens that are listed in the United States. What we really encourage people to do is to see an allergist, a board-certified allergist. That's the person who's going to be able to diagnose your allergic disease. So they will do some form of testing in their office, and they'll determine what the triggers are and how allergic you are to those various allergens, food allergens. We did a report called My Life with Food Allergies, which talks about the burden of disease. And it really does fall on the caregivers. And I have to be honest, one of the reasons why I have this job is that 2 of my 3 kids have had severe food allergies. And when they're in their 30s now, but when they were young, once you're diagnosed with a food allergy, you need to know how to put a meal on the table. You need to know how to navigate a play date. How to navigate the school system, and all that is really challenging. That's one of the things that we do as a nonprofit. We provide that support network, the trusted information and support for those with food allergies. I could think of my own family. If my kids were going to go over to my parents' house, the grandparents have to know how to navigate this. So within your own family, people have to understand that. But then when you go outside your family, it's really important to understand how to navigate that. So we have advice on our website, bring your own snacks. You don't want your child to feel excluded. You want them to feel part of things. It's very much part of what food is and socializing and family. So it's really important for them to feel included, but to have those guardrails. And you can find some of those on our website. At kidswithfoodallergies.kfa.org.
Well, certainly great segments. I want to thank all of our great contributors this week. And that wraps up this episode of BRN Weekly. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content? Well, visit our website and, of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow with BRN Sunday. I'll be joined by members of the media, academia, financial services, and government as we break down and analyze all the news and events for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.